What's up, people? Gonna do a bit of theory today, a little bit of theory. I was catching up on a video from Grandmaster GM Naroditsky from a year ago, where he was playing with the black pieces and faced the King's Gambit, and he introduced something that I've never seen before. Now, I do see the King's Gambit, obviously, quite a lot, playing as I do e4, e5, okay? So I do get some King's Gambits. But the line that Danya suggested here, well, it appears to have quite a nice trap, basically. And it also kind of fits in with the Freddy Krueger idea of kicking the King's Knight away, okay? But it doesn't involve an F-pawn push. Okay, so let me show you. Now, this is, I'll tell you what my settings are. Okay, so we are set to 1800 and 2000 on Lichess. So that is around my level and, you know, the kind of players that I want to be beating. Okay, so let me show you the main line. Okay, so to get the King's Gambit, they play pawn to f4. And obviously they should never take this pawn, you need to know that, but they should know that even more so. And the weird ass move that Danya suggests here is the move pawn to c6, like a kind of a Caro Khan setup. Now obviously this doesn't make it applicable to Caro players because they've already played c6 by this point instead of playing e5, haven't they? So let's just looking on the side here. So the most common move here is to accept the Gambit 47% of the time. 17% of the time black plays knight to c6, and you go down and you've got pawn to d5, which is what I've been playing recently. You've got pawn to d6, bit quiet and not great. You've got bishop c5, you've got knight f6, and you've got the immediate queen h4 check. Okay, apologise for all the noise out. So we've got two cockerels now, two roosters, and some people play f6 and some people play the rather bizarre looking f5. f6 is horrible. f6 is absolutely horrible. Surely, yeah. Anyway, and we go down, and we go down, and then we've got queen f6. Some people play that. And you've got bishop e7, and then finally, at the very bottom of the list, pawn to c6. So, why? Why pawn to c6? Well, actually, the machine approves. The machine says it's fine. Actually, it's got negative 0.6 here in black's favour already, but, you know, Stockfish doesn't understand romance, eh? Now, here is the point. The point is that from this position, we've got 15,490 games, 10,876, that's 70% of the time, they will just bring out their knight, okay? And now, what we do, the most common move here is e takes f4. We're not doing that. We're pushing d5. All right, so what are they going to do from here? Well, I'll show you the most common moves. They take the pawn, and lo and behold, we push. We push and we kick the knight. Okay? Now, from here, knight to e5 is by far the most common move. You've got queen e2. Queen e2, I'd imagine we would... Oh, queen e2, we just take here. Yeah? Yeah. So queen e2, we just grab the pawn, the knight's still under attack, and we can always stick our queen there if we want to, or we can stick a bishop there, right? But the most common move is knight to e5. Some people play knight to g5, which is worse, but I might look into all these lines. This is just a brief introduction. Most common move, knight to e5. Okay, now we take back the pawn, and look, we have two central pawns. White has only the one central pawn. White has a very weird looking f-pawn here, and we are already slightly better, okay? But it gets better than this, because what does White want to do? Well, White wants to get castled and get his rook on f1 behind this, you know, wayward f-pawn, okay? So what are they going to do? They're going to develop their light squared bishop. Where are they going to develop it to? Well, not there, because it's in front of the king, not there because pawn takes, or there because pawn takes, or there because pawn takes. That doesn't leave us with many options. Bishop b5 check is what happens now. Okay? And here, I mean, you can block it with the knight, you can block it with the bishop. Here I've just gone for blocking with the knight, and the most common move, by some margin, 44.4% of the time, white will just casually castle. And what is wrong with this? Pause if you need to, have a look at the board, give yourself a minute. Okay? Very simply, queen to b6 is a fork. We have check on the king, and we're attacking the bishop. Okay? And it's now negative 4.3 in black's favour, and we are winning. Okay, so there you go. Just go over it again. Okay, e4, e5, the king's gambit, and we play the weird looking c6. Okay, there you just bring out their knight, we attack the centre, they capture, we push on, dislodging the knight in Freddy Krueger style. Knight comes in, we recapture in the centre, bishop comes out with check, we just block, they casually castle and lose. Okay, simple. Right, so I've got 3 quick variations for you on this. Okay, c6. Knight to f3 is the common move. And now when we push here, okay, what if they take? So e takes d5 is the most common move by a mile, right, 63% of the time. 1 in 6 games you'll see knight takes e5, right? Knight takes e5 is still going to be better for us, okay? So we grab the pawn in the middle, they bring out their bishop. This bishop is on a square now where it's defended by the knight, okay? And then it goes a bit odd, knight to h6. Now, I don't know if I'm going to remember all this, but because I don't see that many king's gambits, but knight to h6, okay? And the point is that we want to develop the knight, but we don't want to stick it on this square because we want to play the pawn to there, okay? They castle, right? Now, and that is inaccurate. Black is slightly better here. We push f6. And these are all the most common moves, by the way, now from this point for white. Push g6, hit the queen, right? Knight takes. You can throw in this check in the middle, right? Slightly more accurate. And then recapture. And the nice thing about this is, by the way, and you'll be familiar with this idea if you play the Freddy Krueger repertoire, the Rousseau Gambit, the Lucchini, all the other nonsense that I promote, is that having the queen on this diagonal means that this rook could now be defended. Okay, so they take the pawn, you move the king out of the way. It's negative 4.4 here in black's favour. Okay, so again, that is a winning position. A couple of slight variations. There's a blunder. Okay, you do this, believe it or not, right? How often? Scroll. The third most common move, the second most common move, right? After knight f3, and we know what we're doing there, is the immediate 10% of the time they will play this. And we know this is a blunder because you bring out your queen with check. Okay, if they push g6, you capture the pawn and fork king and rook and win. Right? The only alternative is king here. You get that and you win. Okay, king has to go to f2. You bring out your bishop with another check, and it's going to be curtains very soon for them. Okay, and one last wrinkle. 7.3% of the time, you will see, after you do this, the quiet pawn to d3. Okay, so in this instance, d5 is absolutely fine. We are going to end up, after these trades, with an IQP, an isolated queen's pawn. But we now have the edge in development. We are 2 pawns down to white's 1 pawn. They develop. We push on with this pawn, making life a bit uncomfortable for this knight. Bishop comes out, and you swing your knight round. This knight's now coming to g6. This is the point. Okay, they castle, knight to g6. And it's the computer favours white because it likes having more pawns than well, it puts a lot of value on material. But black tends to win. I mean, this position's only been reached 5 times, and black's won 4 of them from here. It's going to be tricky to play, but you're not going to see that one very often. But I think this main line is definitely worth just logging in the old memory banks. And I'm quite excited about facing the King's Gambit now, because it's always been a bit of an Achilles heel of mine that I don't really enjoy facing. But there you go. I thought you might enjoy that one. Okay, thanks for watching. See you later.